The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce this segment of the order. While I understand the urgency...
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. My grandfather used to say, "You gone done it." And I like to say, you F around and you find out. And the New Mexico governor, a lib, a Democrat, a hysterical Karen, and clearly a post-menopausal unhappy person, is finding out that you can F around with the Second Amendment and that you're gonna find out, including, but not limited to, CNN, David Hogg, some of the most lefty senators and House members, and her own sheriff refusing to enforce her unconstitutional order. Okay, so let's catch you up. If you haven't already seen, we have a clip that went utterly thermonuclear, 14 million views on X. The governor of New Mexico declared the First and Second Amendment does not exist due to an emergency. She said, because of an emergency, we're going to stop the ability for people to practice their Second Amendment rights. Under this legal theory, all of your rights are eliminated, and therefore, this is the most evil and tyrannical 60 seconds you will ever hear from a politician. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump on in.
But your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carrying license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency.
With one exception, that is, if there's an emergency. Oh, these tyrants, these effing tyrants, all throughout history, doesn't matter, Stalin, Hitler, it's an emergency. It's time for emergency powers. That's always how, Mao Zedong, it's how every single dictator throughout history, they've always used the same tactics. We just recently went through COVID with the exact same thing. Remember, it was up until the Supreme Court stopped Joe Biden cold that he was trying to enforce vaccine mandates to work. You would lose your job if you didn't get an experimental injection. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is crisis time. But these are old tactics. This does show, indeed, the fascistic nature of the modern day left, and luckily, there's still some sanity in the world. People are pushing back on this governor hard. Some people that you wouldn't expect. For instance, CNN bodies the New Mexico governor live on air, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Watch how many times she blinks. This is always a tell when you're scared, lying, nervous, or know that you've lost, is the number of times that you blink on camera, okay? And watch her eyes darting all over the place. This lady needs a new prescription of Xanax. Watch.
Are kids. They're kids who shouldn't be shot.
It's
but
disgusting.
We also have, Governor, the Constitution of New Mexico and the Constitution of the United States, and you're an attorney. Do you think you're on solid constitutional ground here?
Well, we're going to see. I mean, look, I wouldn't do it if I didn't think I had the right. I have the right.
Where is the right? Where is the right?
In the state of New Mexico. Public health, it's a suspension. It's not a ban. And we'll see what all of these court actions do. And I did say publicly, Poppy, look, I got a Supreme Court that says my personal bodily autonomy can be restricted. And yet NRA and other issues, the Second Amendment keeps getting broadened. So the Bruin case in New York, right, that deals with concealed carry and cases in Texas that say you can
Governor,
be
what I'm talking about. You bring up the Bruin case. The Supreme Court last year. Let me just ask you this, because the Supreme Court last year totally changed what we're allowed to do, what you're allowed to do. And they said unless you can base it in the history and tradition, you don't have grounds to do something like this. The New Mexico Constitution, I looked last night, Article 2, Section 6 says this, quote, no law shall abridge the right of citizens to keep and bear arms for security and defense. No municipality or county shall regulate in any way any incident of the right to keep and bear arms. Are you not in violation of both the U.S. Constitution and your state's Constitution?
Yep.
I don't believe that we are. And if that narrow reading of the Constitution, which has been tested in the state, we wouldn't have universal background checks. We wouldn't have a waiting period. We wouldn't have a red flag law. We wouldn't have prohibitions for straw purchases. None of those would have been deemed constitutional. And today, all of them are.
They were before
These
the Supreme Court
absolute right
ruled
discussions. Fair, but they haven't been tested again.
Okay, well, talk about getting tested. The sheriff is now refusing, this guy's a Democrat, refusing to enforce the gun ban outrage over the governor's decision to suspend rights for 30 days. A New Mexico sheriff is refusing to enforce the governor's gun ban. The Bernalillo County Sheriff John Allen, says Democrat Governor Michelle Lujan's firearm suspension is unconstitutional. She was asked about that, ladies and gentlemen, on CNN. Oh, it went deliciously. Watch this.
It's heard from the sheriff. He joins the attorney general and others who say they won't enforce it. It's unconstitutional. Why do it if it can't be enforced?
Well, that's their opinion. They have no bold actions. They don't have any plans for reducing gun violence.
It's their opinion. The Second Amendment is just someone's opinion, you see. Oh, baby. You know, you have done effed up when people like Ted Lieu, who this guy is such a absolute lunatic, smooth-brain lefty from California, congressman, got a district like the size of a pinhead, has this far-left radical district. This guy's super low IQ, very microwave brain dude. But when he is straight up being like, I support gun safety laws. However, this order from the governor of New Mexico violates the U.S. Constitution. No state in the union can suspend the federal Constitution. There's no such thing as a state public health emergency exemption to the Constitution. As Ted Lieu is starting to recognize, wait a second, what's to stop Republican governors from being like, oh, okay, got it. We're going to suspend the right of women to vote. There's a public health emergency. We need all women to not vote. I mean, where what's the limiting principle here? We're going to suspend the right to the Third Amendment. We're not going to house soldiers in your home. We're going to force government agents into your home to sleep in your bed and eat your food because we want to. We're just going to pick the homes that we want that to happen to. We're going to suspend the ability for us to have to go get a warrant, right, to go search your property. We're just going to start rummaging through your stuff without warrants. We're just going to send our state officials to go harass you and take anything we want from you. Again and again and again. Like, the amendments to the Constitution are very important, very, very, you don't want to live in a country without them. And you certainly don't want to give any governor and any politician the right to suspend them. Again, talking about low information, smooth brains. David Hogg. I support gun safety, but there's no such thing as a state public health emergency exemption to the Constitution. Dude, you're losing David Hogg? Ted Lieu also followed up, by the way, with somebody being like, blah, 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 concealed carry. U.S. Supreme Court issued the below ruling last year. Whether or not we agree with it, this is the ruling and the law of the land. Dude, okay, what I'm saying here is that the internal polling must be so bad for Democrats on this issue that they think that this act is now putting 2024 in jeopardy. And they don't need one more thing. They don't need to make this the gun rights election for libs to just declare an emergency and go take your guns. And of course, that's exactly what they want to do. They're not doing this because they've suddenly found their better angels and love the U.S. Constitution now in the Supreme Court. They're doing it because they're terrified of what this issue is going to do to galvanize people around the country. Check out the Democrat sheriff from this county who is on Fox News, going on Fox News. Again, panic time. The Democrat sheriff going on Fox News being like, yeah, let me tell you what I think about this order.
My next guest is a Democrat, and he's the sheriff of Bernalillo County, John Allen. So, Sheriff, are you going to be enforcing this order?
No, we will not.
Do you believe that it's unconstitutional?
No, I do. As I stated today, it's unconstitutional. Something we won't enforce. That's something I don't want to have deputies also tied up in civil litigation. Make sure we do our job correctly. And like I took my oath on January 1st of 2023, took an oath to uphold the Constitution.
Is it just you, the sheriff, or other public officials in the county and the state also not going to enforce?
That is the other public officials. So at the table, as you saw, sit there, myself and Chief Harold Medina, and waiting for a decision from Chief Troy Weisler from the New Mexico State Police. But minutes before, up to 30 minutes before that press conference started, none of us agreed. So the governor did tell us that she knew we wouldn't agree, but she was still going to go forward with it, and that we would have to make a decision. And my decision is not to enforce it. It's not a question of mine at all. It's unconstitutional. So there's nothing really to debate about.